Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. I'm supposed to be in two places at the same time, which even in the
Oh, you look
electronics
good for
world,
somebody who's split in half.
yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. Alrighty. So now I know that Crope had presented to the tech and the governing board, so I'm not sure what this this group is going to do right now. I can tell you what I'm hoping to do, which is pitch for I need a deck. So I actually have a very specific need, but I don't think I'm alone, which is I need a couple slides in Google Docs
Hmm.
that do some of these diagrams. At the very least, the hierarchical and the CI/CD one. And
Hmm.
I would recommend at least maintaining a few slides that way so that when somebody needs, because if you want to do a PowerPoint presentation, for example, you can grab it, convert it, bring it over. You can grab the Google Doc slides so everybody can go
Hmm.
at it. Um, and now granted, there are many needs for explaining things, but one is to be able to present to others. In fact,
Hmm.
I have to create a presentation soon for Boeing. I don't know, not terrible, it's not a big secret. So but anyway, occasionally I have to give presentations. So having slides that are maintained is a good thing. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I'm trying. I'm not sure I'm keeping up with your requests, but I at least made the attempt.
Yeah, I've sent a few across. Apologies.
Oh, nothing to apologize for. I'm, you know, trying to juggle too many things at once. So, I'm supposed to be in another meeting simultaneous. That's a little hard. Um, so really what I was planning to do is just appeal briefly to the diagrammers group that I really need, and I think many other people need, a couple just Google Docs slides that present these kind of diagrams. Ah, and there he is. Grobe? Aha! So I have an apology to make. I'm supposed to be at two places at the same time. Even with electronics, that's hard. So I have the critical projects working group is scheduled. Okay.
I know that you love to doodle, so you are not no judgment if you go talk to some other people who don't love you as much as we do.
Oh wow. All right. But that's um all right. I'm feeling the guilt. I'm already going to fly down to the floor. So I have a request, really for the diagram, and I guess it's somewhat selfish, but I don't think it is. I think other people are in the same boat I am, which is I occasionally need to go talk about the OpenSSF. And generally what they want is slides. Okay. So basically, what I would like to see is Google Docs of a shared deck of just a couple slides that explains the OpenSSF that people can grab and steal from. Um, we have some. You've already done, at least like the hierarchy and the CICD, and I think we can do several. I'm happy to create a Google Doc of the versions that I have. If people want to replace that with better versions, that's great. Um, but I think for at least now I realize that some of them, like the mind map one, that is probably not practical to put in a slide deck.
That's not
But
gotten a lot of votes.
okay, well, I'm not trying to exclude anything. It's much more of the having a common Google deck of, hey, you need to present about the OpenSSF. Here you go. That basically builds on the ideas of I have a couple slides I can already provide. If you'd like mine, if you've got better ones, great. And if other people have slides for some of these other views, that would make sense. That's great. And if you have a better approach, that's great. But in the end, what I need are some slides, probably Google Docs for that purpose.
This is a topic that Jennifer and I have discussed in other meetings,
Okay.
and we are in agreement. This is a thing that should happen. So if
Okay.
you have some source material, I'm glad to help facilitate and coordinate and get things in an appropriately brand approved style deck.
So Jennifer, if I just create a Google Doc and post and just start putting things in and then other people can edit, is that a reasonable way to proceed? I mean, we can presumably move things around later, but
This is something specifically the governance subcommittee has asked for.
okay.
This is for the visual. You mean? Yeah.
It would include the visual, but he's thinking more broadly of a walking around deck, an elevator pitch deck for the foundation.
Right. At least, heck, I don't think it's a crazy idea to have a general elevator pitch deck. Jennifer, I know we've done some things for new members, but I'm thinking specifically of diagrams. But if we want to have just a more general, here's the OpenSSF, I mean, that would be quite reasonable. I was just thinking of the diagrams, but if we want to have a general OpenSSF pitch deck and this is part of it, well, that's awesome too.
Yeah, I'd love to do both.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm
Let's,
gonna get started dropping that in. We should have a new other news. We should have a new template for slides, I believe this week. So I will be sure to share that. It is still with Creative Services, but they have been working on it and it's looking really good.
okay. I have existing slides, so would it be okay to just start with something I already have and then,
Sure. Yeah.
we can, if it turns out to be a horrible, terrible thing,
If this group has shown nothing else, it's much easier to start with existing art than a blank page, David.
So I
okay.
actually dropped the template in the new template based on our new style guide in the meeting chat there. It's not quite final, but it's almost.
Okay. Oh, wow, this is a really different format.
Pretty cool.
Okay. So,
So yeah, if you
I'm
want to share your deck, David, we can collaborate and figure out what needs incorporated into an ultimate kind of walking around deck, as my friend Gunnar
Right.
used to call it.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and no matter what you start with, we can kind of apply the style later. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So so the amazing process that I intend to do then is I'm going to create a new, oh, if I can, I'll create a deck with just a few slides. I'm sure that it needs improving, and then we can, and then
Yeah, if you want to drop it in the notes or to the mailing list or the
Yep,
Slack, we
I'm
can collaborate on that in the future.
happy to do it. Yeah, I'm currently looking for the copy this slide thing, which I know is here somewhere. For some reason, I can't find it. Where are you?
Control C.
No. I'm trying to copy the whole Google Doc, and they've moved something. I think. I'm not sure.
You could Google and find out.
I could. Oh, you know what? I have to go out and then right click on it. Okay. Well, I mean, that's
Yeah, I think that's a worthwhile project for us to collaborate on, is helping get that set and pass it off to whomever ultimately, whether it's the marketing committee, outreach folks, kind of get it to its ultimate home. But yeah, we can definitely assist.
okay. All right, so that's my slightly selfish, but I think although I originally had the idea of just the slides from frankly, a walking around deck is a very, very good idea. I sort of have one anyway, but it keeps getting mutated for particular audiences. So,
But if we get Jennifer to do it, then it's official. So it's the walking around deck.
That's right, or at least the starting walking around deck. Okay, I don't know why I can't find the button that says make a copy of me, but I will find it. It's moved. Oh, there it is. All right. I'm going to call this OpenSSF introduction. know very darn well that. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave in some things, and okay. I'm gonna actually use. I'm gonna just provide the slide deck that I've used for the big fix.
Sure.
And I know that it needs changing. That's okay. Format changes, content changes, but this is at least. Let's see here. All right, and I'm gonna make sure, Crobe, you are an editor of this thing. Okay, so here is something to diverge from.
All right.
Okay, the actual figures that I use are just the hierarchy and the the CICD. I'm gonna add CICD view.
Cool.
And I have a separate copy of it, and I'm not sure why. I know it needs some updates, but this at least,
Yeah.
it will give you something to. Now, why do I have it twice? I don't know why I have it twice. That will confuse everybody. Let's remove that. Now it's only there once. So there we go.
Yeah, I like this new foundation template though.
Yeah, I didn't use that. Obviously, I didn't have it, but
Well, it's new.
yeah, absolutely.
And
All right.
I'll just want to emphasize there's still a couple changes to be made. So don't start using it and sharing it around broadly until I can get those made.
It's in beta.
Awesome.
That's right.
But you can see what I've done. I sometimes skip some of these slides, and sometimes things change around. I chose this as a starting point because it's a relatively brief introduction.
Yeah.
And talks about some specific projects.
And the subcommittee idea was Arun called it 3330, that you have basically a one pager that kind of is more like an infographic of what the foundation is.
Yeah.
You have a short little deck that you could do in 3 minutes. It gives a kind of a high level overview. And then you have a more in-depth version that would be like 30 minutes long to kind of tell more richly, develop the story. But yeah, we can definitely start with something like this and kind of collaborate on that to see where it goes. And once we get that finalized template, it'll be super pretty.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's see here. Who else needs edit access? Let's see here. And I'm going to, oh, it's restricted. I don't know why it's restricted. I'm going to make it so anybody with the link can at least comment on it. And let's see here. Okay, and I see Rosaria has already made the request. Thank you. I will add edits here. Yeah, so yeah, so again, my original concept was just a slides with the pictures, but broadening it to a general intro doesn't seem crazy. So, all right, I hope that is helpful.
Indeed it is. Anything else before you leave us? since you don't love us?
How about this? Thank you to everybody who's worked on this, because it was pretty clear early on there were not one way to do this stuff. So thank you.
Awesome. Cool. So to circle back, does anyone have any other opens? Please add those into the meeting agenda. I'll dump that into the Zoom chat there. I have a couple things I'd like to chat about. The CI/CD diagram. And then if we have time, we could talk about the continuation that Jay started about working group and SIG maturity review. If anyone has any other topics, please put that in the opens underneath Mr. Wheeler's item. All right. So I have had the great opportunity to give our thousands of words presentation to several of the working groups across the foundation. And overall, a very positive response into the collective work that this group has been toiling away at. Depending on which set of stakeholders we're talking with, there were different opinions on which of the diagrams they liked better than another. But at the one that received the most accolades and desire for continued refinement was the CI/CD diagram that David did the initial draft of. And then based off of kind of current state of things in the foundation, I did an update. There is a link there to the ping file if you're curious to see the embellishments I've added to the initial diagram. So I'd like to see if we would like to invest some time to double check, are all the boxes in the right place? Are we happy with the colors? Do we have any kind of objections or criticisms or anything we'd like to change about it? So I'll open it up to the floor here. What are your thoughts on the CI/CD diagram? And this is completely unlike another conversation I've had today. This group is the opposite of providing me an extensive amount of feedback on a topic. So
Yeah, I was just scrolling through it because I'm seeing it for the first time. So.
Sure. And it's this the same core diagram that David shared with us a while back. And again, I've just updated it so that it reflects at the time things that were documented in the Git repositories. I can even, let me see if I can find it here in my derpy little thing. Here's what I will do. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
So this is the update and kind of my suggested placement. Do we want to spend some time to shuffle the boxes around? Are we happy? Is this good enough? Do we want to actually start to go out and maybe talk to some of the working groups to get their agreement and buy-in and adjustments? Or is this good enough? We send it to the artist.
I will
Print
note
it.
that I have in the Google Doc, I do have a version of this diagram already. So just FYI, I think the version in the Google Doc actually has active hyperlinks, and I would encourage whatever you do to have active hyperlinks.
Yeah, of course. Again, this is just, I don't get paid a dime for doing any of this. I'm donating everything because I love me some open source. This is not a final work output.
Okay. Alrighty.
And if somebody else has a better idea, I'm glad for them to take lead.
I've got to run. I'm so sorry.
It looks good to me.
So I think this is a fairly good representation of where things would lie for the best practices, vulnerability disclosure, and end user working groups. Again, we're welcome to feedback on those three in particular. Do we have anyone here that goes to any of the other working groups that is interested in checking my work? I made a guess based off of what David originally had and kind of where it felt logically for me to place them. But do we have anyone that participates in like the security threats or tooling or supply chain groups that might be able to give us some more expert feedback on placement? Or better yet, is anyone interested in going to go sit in some of those working group calls, sharing our work and getting that group's feedback?
Yeah, I go to the identifying security threats. I was just looking down the list and security reviews.
I was going to say I do the same. I mean, I actually lead. So one of the SIGs under there, the risk. Well, here's security matrix. It's risk dashboard. So you actually lead that SIG. So I can. That's one that could be looked at there. But I'm not sure if Alpha Omega sits under the working group. I want to say that that's a project that sits outside of the working group. Now I know it used to sit there, but I believe it's a project that's outside of that now.
So Alpha and Omega is a special delicate snowflake. They are currently listed within that working group's GitHub repository as part of that working group.
Interesting. Yeah.
But if it needs to go somewhere else like SigStore, if it needs to get moved over to projects, I have no deep emotional investment.
I've seen it like unlike where SigStore is. One of the projects, one of the SIFs, I've seen that. I know it used to be there, but I mean, if it's still there, I think that needs to be changed or it needs to be clarified that that's where it is. But everywhere else I've seen it is like Alpha, Omega, and SigStore. I was surprised. I was surprised to see SigStore where it is so early on, as in not having originated in a place and then being a SIF like that. That surprised me. I knew how Alpha Omega originated and then where was that. I thought that was a graduation.
SigStore was purely it was a donated project. It existed before. It started around the same time the foundation was starting, and then that community petitioned to become part of the foundation, and it got put into a SIF they've changed the name to project now.
Yeah, I thought Alpha Omega just a natural graduation. I thought that was the process. So
yep, on the website, that's what it says. In the Git repo, my diagram reflects it. So that is and part of like Matt's journey through the mind map recognized we have a ton of inconsistencies and duplication, missing elements. So that's why I think it'd be great if we actually went to that working group officially and saying, here's what we think the picture is. Can you please adjust it for us so it accurately reflects your work and your ideas?
Yeah, we can. Either Christine or I. It doesn't matter. When we have the next working group meeting, we'll bring it up.
Excellent. Anyone have a relationship with like the tooling or critical projects?
So you may have covered this in a different call, but is there a difference between, say, developer and consumer? I was looking specifically at the security metrics and see it makes sense in the package selection information.
Again, this we'd have to ask David because he's the one that gave me the original diagram. But I believe in the context of this diagram, developer is someone that is writing software, and consumer is more of an end consumer, like a bank or Best Buy or Lloyd's of London.
Okay, so it's not about them.
It's like an enterprise.
Okay, it's not about them using the open source software to then build their products.
No. So if that organization was doing that, then I would assume they would be on the
Developer.
developer bubble.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
But again, we'd have to clarify with David. Anyone work with the supply chain integrity group that we could potentially double check my homework?
Do that there too. Right now, that's exactly what it looks like.
Okay.
Being a member of that working group, that's exactly what it looks like. I do believe that we're also thinking about the creation of a supply chain security framework, a governing one. I know that that's been talked about. I don't think that we've put a proposal together just yet for it like that, but right now, those are the 3 items that are in play. And I want to say that, I mean, Fresca's there, but I still think Fresca is in community and community status. I'm not sure. And full disclosure, the last meeting was a little touch and go for me. I you know, the discussion in the last meeting was like almost to the effect of, we'd like to continue this. Is there, do we have somebody that can help with X, Y, and Z? And I was like, wow, you'd like to continue. That's where we're at. So that's a shrug the shoulder moment, like, whoo. I don't know if but anyway, we'll go back to the working group and really hold down. I know salsa, I know S2C2F, I know the other things that happen now, but we talk about Fresca as if it's part of the work group. I'm not sure about that, so that's the part that I'll ask.
Okay. And do you think where I place the little black boxes on top, W, X, and Y, do those seem appropriate?
The
build
the
for
X1, the
salsa?
X1, yeah. The build one for salsa is good because that's version 1 is just the build track.
Mhm.
They have a source track that's being talked about as well, so that'll go off into the source portion, source integrity.
Okay.
So that part's fine. The Fresco one, though, the Fresco one is kind of a bridge from, if you go from the source all the way to the consumer, right? So it's like that build pipeline. So that might span across. S2C2F is good where it's at. Good where it's at.
Do you think we have multiple projects that would span across the multiple bubbles that we would need to account for that? Or should I just copy and paste another box for Fresca over to source?
Yeah, I don't, that's a great question. I'm not sure if any of the other working groups are working on something that spans across like that too. But as far as Fresca is concerned, that's what it is. And then also there's questions in Fresca about, scope. so that there's even that kind of question in there too. All over here. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Yes, Matt, the actual source of authority is OpenSSF scorecard. Using the power of my computer. Get them represented correctly. And then for Alpha and Omega, All-Star is not included. They basically, it's a lot of the same people doing the development, and they hold a conjoined working SIG call, but officially All-Stars sits underneath another group in the Git repo, where All-Star is sitting under securing critical projects. And again, maybe that needs to change. Maybe we do need to officially put them together. But it's, it's the same 5 or 6 folks, Laurent and Azim and Jeff and everybody. And then your statement around Alpha and Omega, is it correct where it is, or underneath the security threat group, or does it need to move under project, you think?
No, I was confirming. I go back to my mind map, my links. And I look to see, where they, if the work group claims them, and they claim them. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and that may not be. Again, I feel we should go to each of these groups and ask them to verify, and then potentially we might need to do some restructuring. As
Do we include the new memory safety work? Is that included too?
well, that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
That gets proposed next week,
Okay.
and then we'll go through another vote, which is just going great with the vote today. So we'll see how that goes with memory safety, if that's contentious or not.
I don't think so. It doesn't have the word specification. So
We'll see. It's open source. People have opinions. But yeah, theoretically, there'll be one there. And then, like the S-bombs everywhere is going to officially do a plan revamp. So they'll be kind of more formally attacked onto the mobilization plan at some point soon.
no, I have to see. I'm impressed. I mean, I've always liked David's diagram. I was always worried about it being imbalanced in terms of where things would fall, but it looks like the way it's presented here, it looks like it appears as there's a good balance. Let me put it that way.
I hope so. If it represents things accurately, I agree. Yeah, it's a solid thing to start with, and we can easily make changes. We can make sure it adapts to the appropriate brand palette.
And any developer, I mean, this whole thing's about supply chain security, so having that view just makes sense,
And I know, like, the end users group would love to actually do a reference architecture, a real reference architecture to hand to somebody that here's how you implement the things. So I'll circle back with them to make sure that that kind of feeds into their reference architecture work.
Yeah, the only thing that, if this is captured, and graphics designers can do miracles in these things, but the one thing I tried to factor out was which things are, if there was some way in the bull ties list, some indicator or something to indicate a code project, distinguish a code project, something that had a GitHub repo somehow.
And the foundation came down pretty clearly on that. If it's code, it's labeled a project. If it's like a white paper or a guide, that is a SIG. So we can go through, and again, that'll require working with those working groups to make sure that they get the names adjusted correctly. And maybe we change, maybe the projects are a diamond and the
I mean, even
square.
subcategories underneath the colored bars would be saying, here are my SIGs, here are my projects, just to seeing that repeated in each of those sections would be really helpful.
Yeah, and we probably this needs to have a legend and other stuff. Let me get that into the notes. Any other thoughts? Will I be able to enlist a couple of you to kind of go out and talk to some of these working groups and verify for us? Jay,
Yeah, me,
Christine,
I'm already
for
on it.
sure. Is there any groups we're missing that we might need to make a special trip for? Like, do we have coverage on everybody?
We have coverage from all the working groups. I mean, these working groups are all here. I think securing critical projects, I mean, I have to go back and attend some of those meetings, and the secure software repos, I got to go into some of the meetings too, because I haven't been to many of those, but all the other ones I've
Okay.
Or security tooling too. I think I hit one of those maybe once every month just to see if they're talking about anything different. But all the other ones I have to dip in and out.
Yeah, I think that the tooling collides with our education DEI group.
Yeah, I've been trying to attend security tooling again since things have kind of picked back up a little bit. If no one's volunteered for that, I can volunteer for that.
If you can, that would be really helpful, Matt. Just
Yeah,
even kind of pop in, show the diagram, and get Bressers to give us feedback.
All right. Could you share the canonical link?
Well, this is a Visio file, which is not necessarily open source friendly. I have it in a PNG, and I can see if I can convert it to like a Lucid chart. But Lucid chart has its own complications with Google IDs. So how would you like to, or I can make it a PDF. How would you like to have it?
Whatever is easiest for you. PNG works. I mean,
Okay, so the PNG is in the repo right now, and I have a link in the agenda. And I'll put it here in the chat.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I'll just add it to my personal daily notes.
Cool. And then, don't lose your mind map stuff, because I think there are a couple things in motion that we might need to leverage that as we actually kind of go through and start to audit some things across the foundation. So that mind map is very useful to do that activity.
Whatever you need me to do.
All right, and any additional thoughts or commentary on the diagram before we move on to maturity? All right. Jay, do you want to continue our conversation around maturity matrix kind of requirements for things, or do you want to defer that today?
Let's defer it for today. I think there's a few other things that I would like to tease out on the proposal in general. Like I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to. I want to get done with the bulk of that document we're working on.
Yeah.
And then, because I don't want to talk about it separately. I think I don't want to talk about it separately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So Jay and I are working on a proposal to help try to maybe get the foundation a little more structure and rigor around things like the gaps, the mind map exercise highlighted. So we'll definitely come back to this group once we have a more fully formed idea, more than like 3 words on a blank document, and kind of get your feedback on that. And then this actually ties in with something that the governance subcommittee is looking into. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of triangulate and get some action and try to help get things a little more consistent across the board. Any additional thoughts or anything else we'd like to talk about today? All right. Well, again, I thank you for your time and attention, your collaboration, and we will talk again in 2 weeks. And if you need anything sooner, mailing list and Slack channel are always there. Thanks all. Have a great day.
See ya.